Strangled to death with a rope and left to rot in the woods near Hamburg, Pennsylvania. That's what happened to 26-year-old Anna Jean Kane in 1988. After 3 long decades, the case could be closed. In 2022, a shocking development finally brought closure to Anna's death. What happened to Anna Jean Kane? And most importantly, who killed her? Anna Jean Kane was more than just a statistic. She was a young mother of 3, with dreams, aspirations, and a life full of complexities, just like everyone else. Similarly, she had her demons. Anna struggled with drug use and prostitution, but was actively trying to turn her life around. Unfortunately, her story ended tragically. It was October 23, 1988. Deep within a sparsely wooded area, a gruesome discovery was made. Anna's lifeless body was found near the Ontolani Trail east of Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania. Upon closer inspection, investigators discovered that a baling twine was still wrapped around Anna's neck, a grim indication of her cause of death. The autopsy confirmed she was strangled and choked to death. The brutal manner of her death was made more apparent by the bruises on her face, indicating she had struggled against her attacker. Despite the violence of the crime, there were no signs of sexual assault on Anna's body. The circumstances surrounding Anna's death raised many questions for the police. However, they concluded she had likely been killed somewhere else and then dumped in the forest. The police were able to determine this based on the fact that her clothing was not even wet, even though the ground was damp from a recent rainstorm. They estimated that Anna had died about 12 hours before her body was discovered. Anna had lived in the Reading area, but she had moved frequently in recent months, making it difficult for investigators to determine where she had been when she was killed. What was clear, however, was that Anna had still been working as a prostitute, a dangerous job that may have put her at risk. The investigation into Anna's murder continued, but progress was slow. The police followed leads and interviewed potential witnesses, but they struggled to find a break in the case. Meanwhile, Anna's family were left to mourn her loss as they wondered who could have done such a terrible thing. All the information the police had was the DNA of a male suspect detected on Anna's clothes and body. The case went cold for a while. However, this soon changed. Anna's case made headlines on the front page of the Reading Eagle, a daily newspaper that covered news in the Reading, Pennsylvania area. Despite the initial attention, the investigation into Anna's death ran into a dead end. 15 months later, the newspaper received an anonymous letter from a concerned citizen that detailed Anna's death. However, upon closer inspection of the letter, the police realized the author must have been the killer, because the information was so detailed, it could only have been known by someone who was there when Anna died. The letter was never released to the public, but according to the investigators, it contained intimate details about the place where Anna's body was disposed of and how her clothes were displayed. The letter also gave the police a crucial piece of evidence. Traces of saliva were found on the envelope, indicating that the writer had licked to seal it. The police ran tests on the saliva and eventually found that it matched with the DNA found on Anna's clothes and body. This was a significant breakthrough in the case. Unfortunately, the police still did not know who the DNA belonged to, so they decided to shelf it for the meantime. Despite the DNA evidence being found on Anna's clothing, body, and the envelope, the killer remained unknown due to the limitations of technology at the time. Since the killer had never been arrested before, his DNA was not in any criminal database, leaving investigators with a dead end. The case became cold for the second time and would remain so for the next 30+ years. However, in 2022, technological developments in forensics became the key to unlocking this puzzling murder. A surge in the popularity of genetic testing through companies like 23andMe and Ancestry has prompted millions of people to submit their DNA information online, leading to the creation of massive databases filled with genetic data. By using an online service, law enforcement officials can upload DNA samples gathered from crime scenes and compare them to the genetic information submitted by users. If a match is detected, genealogists can use traditional genealogy research methods to build family trees based on genetic data. This method allows investigators to narrow down potential suspects to a smaller pool of individuals who are related to the person in the DNA sample. Additionally, investigators can often identify a suspect who might have been previously unknown. The use of this technique provided the investigators with an identity. The man's name was Scott Grimm, a Hamburg local. Could he really be Anna's killer? While there was not a lot of information on Scott Grimm, they found another crucial evidence pointing to him as Anna's murderer. In 2002, Scott was arrested by Exeter Township Police in a harassment case where he sent letters to a former business partner. Upon closer inspection of the letters, authorities discovered the envelopes had traces of saliva, indicating that Scott licked to seal them. Immediately, authorities processed the DNA, and it was a match. The DNA from Anna's clothes and body and the one sent to Reading Eagle matched with Scott Grimm's. There was no doubt he was the murderer. In August 2022, Pennsylvania State Police finally announced the case as closed during a press conference. After more than 30 years, Anna Jean Kane's death had been solved, thanks to the efforts of the investigators and advancements in forensics technology. When Anna died, she had 3 children. One of them is a woman named Tamika Reyes. She was only 9 when Anna was forcibly taken from this world. Without their mother to take care of them, Tamika and her 2 brothers had to be taken in by their relatives. Tamika was lucky enough that her aunt took her and raised her, while her 2 brothers moved in with their father. For 34 grueling years, Tamika, her siblings, and their grandmother, Anna's mother, have wondered who the murderer was. The lack of closure has only added to the pain of losing Anna. However, after the announcement of the killer's identity was made, Tamika received a call from a detective who worked in Anna's case. The stunning development made Tamika ecstatic, as she could finally put a face on the monster who robbed them of a childhood with their mother. She was excited to learn that Scott Grimm would soon be punished. However, in a cruel twist of fate, Tamika learned that Scott Grimm would not face justice and would never have to feel the pain and fear she had felt all those years. He would never have to rot in jail. The police could not arrest Scott Grimm because he had been dead for 4 years. He died at the age of 58 from natural causes. Tamika was disappointed, as she was denied the opportunity to confront Scott in court and demand justice for her mother's senseless murder. It was a bitter pill to swallow. Additionally, Tamika's grandmother passed away before Anna's killer was identified. Unfortunately, investigators do not know much about Scott. All they had was information that he lived in the nearby Hamburg, Pennsylvania area. However, authorities theorized that Scott may have been a client of Anna's, especially because she was reportedly working as a prostitute at the time. It was possible that Scott met her and had a disagreement with her, leading to the violent acts. Unfortunately, these were all theories and haven't been confirmed. To date, there is no known connection between Scott and Anna. Although it had been such a long time, Tamika still misses her mother. It had been hard growing up without a mom. No child should ever have to grow up without their mom, Tamika said. Tamika had so many questions to ask Scott. Why did he kill their mother? How did he feel when he learned Anna had a family to take care of? Tamika was heartbroken, but she was glad there was some closure. Although Scott was already identified and could not be put in jail, the police are still trying to find a connection between him and Anna. The search for answers continues. If you like this video, it would be great if you could support us by subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Hit the bell to always get notified about new shocking cases. Thank you for watching and see you soon, The Criminal Collective.